Hey everybody, how you doing today? I have a Regan, or Reagan, not sure how you pronounce her name, from The Exorcist. It was made by Morbid Enterprises. She talks, her mouth moves a bit, her eyes light up, and her head spins around 360 degrees, and she has a shaker that shakes her while she's talking. If you've seen my video last year, you know that her head wasn't spinning around all the way, you had to help it, and the eyes weren't lighting up. Well, I got those two problems fixed. The only thing I see with her now, her head does not stop straight forward, and that is because there's a slight bit of play internally in her head. It moves about an inch from side to side, so when it gets done spinning, it stops at a slight angle. I'll show you. That's it. So she's got a little bit of play in her neck for some reason, which is up inside her head, and I didn't want to dig that far into her. So if you're going to display her, you can turn her head forward. And when she's in use, she's just going to stop with her head a little bit off to the side. So you just put her in your display that it stops so it's pointing where you want her to point. I'd like to thank Bruce of Dragon's Design LLC. He is the one that was able to print the gears for me. I sent him my broken gears. He scanned them, put them on his computer, rebuilt the broken teeth, and then printed them out for me. So if you need any help with yours, he should be able to help you. And here's his card. And let me give you a quick look at her here. Her dress is supposed to be dirty. I don't know if there's any extra dirt on it. Her feet are still wrapped up from the last time I tried shipping her. I didn't want to unwrap it, but I will show you that in a minute here. And I'll show you what I was talking about with the feet here. You can see the feet come off. There's a plywood thing under there. You can see the big blob of hot glue. And this panel is loose too, but it just needs to be glued back on. It's in good shape. Not cracked or anything. It's just, I don't even know if that was actually glued down. I know the feet were glued down because I can see the, well, hey, maybe the feet weren't glued down. This might have been done by the people at the party store. There's a big glob there that you can see in at the back heel. Other than that, she's got metal legs that collapse. She'll squash down to 3 feet to get in the box. She's 5 foot tall. I'll get you a close up on the face here. Her back's open here. This is how you turn her on. There's a box here to turn her on real quick. Hello?
My bed was shaking. I can't get to sleep.
Do you know what she did? Your haunting daughter?
Okay, so here's the gearbox that where the broken gears were. To take it apart, you got 4 screws, one there, one there, one there, and one there. I'll open it up real quick. Okay, so here's the inside. The problem was this gear right here lost a tooth, this little guy, and then the bigger gear on this one broke. And the order they go in case you get yours apart, and you need to know how they go back together. This first gear sits right with the motor gear, the second gear sits underneath that one, and then the last 3 just stack on top of each other. The only thing you got to be careful of when you're putting this back together is these metal pins have to line up with the top, and one of them flops around, so as you're putting it together, just look through the crack. You may need a toothpick or something to get it lined up right, to get it shut. Don't jam it together if it's not going. After you get the gearbox back together, you want to make this connection here with the red, black, blue, and green. That actually rotates the head, those wires. And you just want to turn it on because this is the shaft that her head rides on. And this little point sticking off will rotate around to here when it's stopped. You'll see here in a second. Just to get it back in the right position, hook it up to your box and turn it on. So once you get it in the right position, just shut it off and disconnect it. That way you know it's lined up right for where her head's supposed to sit. And now getting her head back on, or getting this back to her head, you got these 3 pieces right here. These 3 sets of wires, or spring wires, whatever you want to call them. They run the eyes and the mouth. And that's why her eyes originally weren't working. One of these sets was popped down to another track. So to get these back together, what I do is, because this top piece comes loose and the spring pops around, I move this middle set down to the bottom, and then I move the top set, which I'm going to have to set the camera down to do. I move that down to the second ring, and then when it's back together, take something long and thin, and you can just reach in there and pop them back up into the tracks that they're supposed to be in. And in case yours is apart and you don't know where they go, these pins that they sit on, right here, here, and here, they're actually different heights. So if you look at it from this way, the one to the left goes on the bottom, the one in the center goes on the center, and the one on the right goes on the top of the pile. So let me see if I can do this with the camera here. Just got to move this guy down to there. So, like I said, that keeps this together. Otherwise, you try and put this spring on the top and it keeps popping off like that. But once you get them together, you can get the head on and then reach in with something thin and just pull it and pop it up to the right track. So that just slides down onto the shaft. There's a certain way, as you can see, these poles that it sit on are off center. You'll figure it out. And you got 4 screws that hold the box, the gearbox on. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when we get them on, I'll be right back. Alright, so here she is back together. The only thing to get her back on her shoulders, this slides down into a hole in the shoulder bracket, I guess you'll call it, or I'll call it, whatever. There's 2 screws, one goes in this hole, one goes in that hole, and right here is a keyway that's a tab's supposed to slide in so her head lines up straight, but unfortunately her head stops at an angle, so I ground that off, as you'll see here in a minute. Alright, so you see that little keyway sticking there in the round hole on the left side? That's to position her head in the right spot. So I am just going to take a Dremel tool and grind that out so I can rotate her head around a little bit more. She gets held in by 2 screws at the bottom, so I don't think it'll be a problem. If it does turn, I'll put a pin through it so it doesn't turn. And there it is with the keyway taken out, so now I can just rotate her head around to the right position and she should be fine. Okay, so here she is back together. See if we can get her to go. Yep.
My bed was shaking. I can't get to sleep.
Yep. Boop.
Do you know what she did? Your haunting daughter? It burns! Oh, it burns!
Another modification I made while I had her apart. As you can see by the flesh colored paint here, it used to be glued to her chin, her collar. I just didn't think that looked too good, so instead I seen up top here there was enough to slide a tie wrap through, so I put a couple small slits in it and just ran a tie wrap around through the inside of the collar. Rather than having it glued, you could see it's glued there too. They had it glued up around her chin. At least this sits down a little better and it's no longer glued to her chin. Alright, and also she had a crack in the plastic here that makes up her shoulders. That's why there's a piece of duct tape, and then there's a piece of duct tape on one of the arms here. This guy, they had pulled the tie wrap too tight. So I put a piece of duct tape on that, both sides, to strengthen it up. Just want you to know all the things that aren't factory.